Hi everyone, it's me, Sarah. I am just doing this video because apparently, I haven't looked yet, but apparently loads of people, I've had a couple of messages asking for my recipe and method that I use for my sourdough. So I just thought I'd put together this video. I've never really done videos like this before, so I thought I'd put together a little video because I've got to make another sourdough for a friend tomorrow. So I thought whilst I'm doing it, I can just show you, and then I'll show you the process, and then I can just cut it all, put it all together in one video so that you can see the process. It's really not difficult, it's not hard. If I can do it, anyone can. I'll tell you the basics of what you need, which is what I use. So I did use glass bowls, and you can use glass bowls, that's totally fine. But I do have plastic bowls, and it's actually easier to scrape out the dough, more comes out really. So I use plastic bowls now, but you can use glass bowls. You will need electric scales, they're my Joseph electric scales, but you definitely will need digital scales because you need to measure everything exact. Other things that you need are bread scraper. I call it a bread scraper. I got this from my chefing days in 2003, so I just use that. You can get other fancy ones, you can get bigger ones, but it works fine for me, so I just use that. So it's like a dough scraper. Measuring spoons, just because you need to measure a teaspoon of sea salt, so as long as you've got that. What else? I've got my water that I boil and then let it cool down. So you need your water, but I always boil the water, put it into a jug or something and leave it overnight to cool down, and just I always refill this so that I've got water ready. My flour, I use shipton. I use shipton bread flour. You need a strong white bread flour, and I found this really lovely. Yeah, so I use that, which I get delivered to me online. You will need rice flour. This is ground rice flour, but you will need rice flour just to coat it. So yes, I use one of these, which is just like one of the icing sugar ones. Get them online, get them on Amazon. But that is something you will need because you need to coat the bannetons and stuff for that. A water spray. I use that, which was £1 from Wilko's. I did have that from the Container Store, but now it's not working. So I don't know why it's not working, but I've just decided to use that one instead. So again, that's boiled water in there that's cooled down. Use that, and that's it really. Oh, spatula, I think. That's what I use. Yeah, it is lovely. I really like this, and that's for getting the starter out and mixing the starter. So that is a handy tool. So what I'll do is I'm crouching because there's no best way for me to put my phone anywhere. So I will just walk you through what I do. Oh, the other things you will need, sorry. Now I've got these 2 enamel roasting tins. I've got an oval one, and excuse my tie by the way, but obviously we're in lockdown, so I'm not dressing up. And then I've got this one as well, enamel roasting tin. Now, oval one was from Asda for £10. So I think they've still got them, but that is brilliant if you've got an oval banneton. So that's my oval banneton that I picked up on Amazon, I think I did. So that's what I use to go in that. Again, that's just parchment paper in there. But I just keep them in there because it just saves on space. And then obviously that's my round banneton. So you will need a banneton to put your dough into. To begin with, I did actually just use a plastic bowl my first go. I used a plastic bowl to put it in, but you won't get the sort of pattern, the pattern of that covered with rice flour. That's where you get those lines on your bread. So I use those 2, and they're the only ones that I've got that I use. So I think I'm going to do a round one because I like the round one. Sometimes it's a bit hard to put in the toaster, excuse me, but I like the round one at the minute. I like the shape I got. So basically, this is what I do. This is my starter, and I have it in this. I've actually got 2 of these in my fridge. This is my starter. You can see all the bubbles. So it's yeah. So I do it very differently to how other people do it. I got this method from an Aussie lady on YouTube. So basically it's ready to go. It's been fed, and then I leave it to double in size. You can see where the elastic band is. It feeds itself, it doubles in size, and when it's at its peak, I then put it in the fridge. That way I can use it straight away now. So what I do is I do it that way. It's so much easier. I don't measure the flour or the water. Sometimes, you know, they say you have to put 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water when you're feeding the starter. I don't do any of that. I do it how this lady does it, and I've never had a problem. So I'll explain that as well. So basically you use 100 grams of starter. So put your digital scales on, make sure they're set to 0, and put 100 grams in. Oh, that's good. It can be quite runny or it can be thick. Sometimes I've done it runnier than that. I don't actually need to feed that again because I've got enough in there for it to for me to do another loaf. So I'm just gonna put that back in the fridge, and then that's ready for me to do another loaf. I usually do one a week, but you can leave that maybe for a couple of weeks and it will still be fine. So I'm going to put that back in the fridge, and that's the starter. And then I'll just show you the other one I've got. That's the one I did last night that I used for those two. Can you see that? So that's bubbly, and you can see it was up there, so it's doubled practically. But again, that's fine. So they're both at their peak. Because I do bagels as well, but you need more starter for bagels. So it's 100 grams of sourdough. Then you put in 325 grams of water that you've boiled and that's cooled down. So I put that in to where the starter is, and then you give it a mix with your palette knife. Palette knife, that's what it is, not spatula. So you just give it a mix. I don't know whether you can see that. No. Just to sort of loosen up the starter. Get rid of those because I've already weighed out the flour. So it's 500 grams of flour. So once that's just mixed, doesn't have to be properly mixed because it won't be. You'll have little bits in there. Sorry, my head keeps going up, but I'm bending over. So 500 grams of the flour. Now this will make one loaf. I'd already measured it out, but usually I will just pour the flour into that mixture. I don't usually weigh it out beforehand, but I just did it for the sake of the video. And then you will need a teaspoon of salt, sea salt I use, the coarse sea salt. Now again, some people will probably want more salt. My sister likes more salt, so I'm going to do like about a heaped teaspoon of salt, and that's what gives it the flavour. That's what gives it sort of that sort of soury taste, and you get that sort of stickiness from the bread. And then all you do is put it together, mix it with the spatula. I just sort of keep mixing it with the spatula, or palette knife, sorry, not spatula. Mix it with that until it forms thicker and thicker. You don't get your hands dirty. I don't touch this with my hands at all. So once it's like that, I then get my bread thing, whatever it is. I'm not very good with the names. And then I just pull it round and fold it. Pull it round and fold it. It's not folding per se, it's just mixing it together. But I sort of pull it over and push it down on it. And you basically just want all the flour to come together. You're not kneading it. It doesn't need to be a perfect smooth dough, because it's not going to be, because it's only just going to start mixing with the water and the starter and the flour, and sort of basically making acquaintances with each other. So you're going to have sort of dry bits where the flour is, but as long as you've got all of that starter, water, and just give it a mix, you'll start seeing it like that. And that's fine, it's just very rough, but as long as there's no real dry bits, there's no patches of flour on its own, that is it. That's all I do. Done. So scrape all of that off, put it back, push it, just make sure everything's done. So it's like that. Not pretty. Then all I do, spray it, and that's it for the first thing. You need a tea towel, by the way. These are my tea towels for my sourdough. All you do is cover it. Oh no, you don't cover it, sorry. You don't. First thing, what am I doing? So you spray it and you leave it like that, uncovered, for half an hour, and that's it. So I'm going to set timer now for half an hour, and what I'll do is I'll come back to you when we've done the half an hour, ready for the next step. Okay, hi. Feel like I'm getting lower. So half an hour's been, and it looks like that still. Okay, so now after half an hour I spray it. I'm going to move this sourdough loaf out of the way. I then spray the surface of the worktop, and I get my bread scraper, and you just spray that, make sure that's wet, and then spray your hands a bit. So now you just get the dough out. Should come out. There we go. So you get the dough out onto that wet bit. Roll up your sleeves, make sure your hands are clean, and just spray. Make sure they're wet, and then all you do is you're now stretching it. So you do 14 stretches. So 1, 2, 3, I put it down like this, 4, or you can put it like that, 5, 6, 7, basically you're just building the gluten, 8, 9, 10, 11, you can see it's getting smoother, 12, 13, and then the 14 you put it into the ball, 14, and you just round it into the ball like that. It's not pretty, it's still sticky, still a bit gloopy. That's it. Let me just wash my hands. That's all you do. So you just do 14 stretches and just pull it over. Dry my hands, and then I just spray once. Now you cover with a tea towel, and you set your timer for 2 hours. My temperature in my kitchen is between 18 and 20, 18 to 21. At the minute it's 18.9 degrees centigrade. So that's fine. 2 hours, let that proof, let the dough just become, it will become more silky and it will become more elastic. And we're literally going to do that process 2 more times, but you only do 6 stretches and folds. So it's really like 30 seconds work every time you're doing it, but it's stretched over a period of about 6.5 hours. So you've got to make sure. I usually start mine, what time do I usually start mine? I usually start mine about like 11 or 12 o'clock, but at the moment it's 3 o'clock. So I started it at about 20 past 2. So by 9 o'clock it will be done in the banneton, in the fridge, ready to slowly ferment until I cook it in the morning. This morning I cooked my loaves. What time did I cook my loaves? It was about 10:45, and I'd put them in last night at about, by 8 o'clock, I'd say, 7:30, 8 o'clock they were in. So it's something that you can just do in an afternoon if you've got an afternoon free, and then all you do is bake it in the morning the next day, or like mid-morning. So yeah, that's it. I'll do another little video after 2 hours and show you what the next stage is. But it's really easy. It's just a bit of a long process, but I'll do the next one in 2 hours. I know I keep looking over there. I need to look there. All right, see ya. Hello everyone, I'm back. So it's been 2 hours and I will show you. Looks like that. So it's got some bubbles, which is good, these little bubbles. But basically now we're going to do the same as what we did before. So I'm just going to spray once. You don't need loads of water. Spray once, spray that, spray a bit on your spread scraper and just bring it out of the bowl. There we go. Spray your hands again. And then now we're just going to do 6 folds. So it's just literally 6 folds. Let me move that out of the way so you can see. So it's just literally 1, 2, 3, and you can see now it's a lot more silky. 4 and smooth. 5, and then the 6th one you put into the bowl. 6th, done. And that's it. Back into the bowl like that. And that's it, another 2 hours. Leave it another 2 hours and I'll come back to you in 2 hours. Oh yeah, make sure you cover it. So put 1 spray, cover it, put it to the side, and then set your timer for 2 hours and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So basically, it's been another 2 hours. All I'm going to do is spritz it once, spritz the table twice, spritz a little bit on my bread scraper, pour it out onto the worktop like that, and then do exactly the same. Make sure you've got clean hands, spray your hands with a bit of water and just do 6 folds, stretches and folds. So 1, 2, and you can see it's now really silky and smooth. 3, pull it out. 4, 5, and then remember 6 goes into the ball. 6 down into the ball like that, up, and then put it into the container again. Put another spray on it, 1 spritz, and then cover for 1 more hour. And then after that hour we'll be turning it out onto the counter. So at the moment it's 30 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours. Now it's 1 hour, and then the last one is 1 hour, and then it goes into the banneton. So I'll put the cover on it and I will come back in an hour. Hi, hello. So now we're on the last, nearly the last bit. The second to last bit. So now you don't use water because we're sort of drying it out now. So what I do after that 1 hour, sprinkle literally, so it now looks like that. Don't know if you can see it, but literally sprinkle a tiny, tiny bit of flour on the top, whether you can see that, and I just sprinkle a bit of flour on the surface, not much at all. And then what we do is we're going to tip it out so that the flour side will be on the bottom. Like so. So now what we're doing with it is we're just going to, so you finish with the bowl now, because what it's going to do, by the way, excuse my dressing gown, what it's going to do is it's going to sit on the counter for 1 hour, but we're going to make it into a ball and let it sit onto the counter for an hour. So what I do is put some flour round the dough so that it's just a sprinkle around it, and using the sort of flat side, not the curved side, using the flat side, I shove the flour underneath to basically give it a coating underneath. So you just do that all the way around. That's it. I mean, it'll still be a little bit sticky, but basically it means that it's dry. It's dry on the bottom and it's still a bit sticky on the top, okay? So now we're just gonna fold it and make it into a ball, still using the 6 folds. So it's obviously easier to pick up now at the bottom. So just go 1, 2, 3. You don't stretch it as much because you don't need to. 4, 5, and then the last one, we're just going to roll it down into sort of a ball. Now what we need to do is you need to create tension on the surface of this dough, because that's how you get that sort of ear. So you can either use your scraper and literally push it. I have to do it the other side. Like push it underneath and roll it so it rolls and makes a skin. Or you can push with your hands. Can't really show you. Push with your hands like that, sort of underneath. But it's sort of something that you have to do quite quickly. Now this is only practice, because now obviously it's getting a bit stickier. Or you can rotate it and pull it, but you just want to get a tight skin on it, because that is what is going to make it sort of burst and have that good ear. I didn't realise that this was really quite important. So just make it into a really tight ball, and then you're not pushing it, you're not pushing down on it, you're like really light with it. But you can see, I'll show you, I'll turn the camera around. Oh no, I can't. You can see that's quite, it's bouncy as well. So now what I do is I will just sprinkle tiny bit of flour, don't need much, give it a little pat, because I say well done, and you cover it on the counter and leave it here for 1 hour. Yeah, so you just leave it on there for 1 hour, and after that 1 hour is when we put it in the banneton. So I'll come back to you after the hour. It's now 8:25, by the way. So I started it at about 2:20. So yeah, it's if you're going to be in, which I was going to be in all day today anyway, it doesn't matter if you, because you just got to come back, do something for 30 seconds and then carry on with your day. Or even if you've got to go out shopping, you could do it within your 2 hour gap. So you could do your folds, set your timer for 2 hours, go out shopping and make sure you're home. So yeah, I'll come back to you in an hour. Okay, it's 9:30 and it's the last bit. So what you'll need, so I do two, I do the round ones and I do the oval. I like doing the oval ones, but I'm just going to do a round one because it might be a little bit easier to start with anyway. So first of all, you need to put some rice flour into your banneton. You need to do that when you first buy a banneton. You need to spray it with some water, and you need to just put some rice flour in and just sort of push it round like that sort of thing, and let it all go into the crevices. Don't know if you can see that, but just so that there's flour. So you do need that so that the dough doesn't stick to it. So I just sprinkle it round, make sure there's a good coating. And then what I will do is, you need a little bit, but not much. Again, excuse the dressing gown. Just a little bit of flour, just for where you're going to put the dough. Get that out of the way. And basically you need to turn it on its back. So it's just like a quick process of just pulling it onto its back, because that top side is hardened a little bit. Not much, but it's just got a bit of a drier skin. And all you're going to do with this, usually I will sort of fold it, stretch it, pull it down and make a nice sort of pattern with it for the oval. But all you're going to do is make this into a ball to then just basically plop into your banneton. So all you do, this is what I do, is I just pull it up like that. Make it so you've got a bit tall, and then just plop it into your banneton. So it's like that. That is it. That's all I do. And then give it a good coating of the rice flour all the way around the edges, pull it round to the sides, and that's it, done. That's it. So I will now put that into the oven tomorrow morning. So it's going in, it's 9:30. So I'm going to put that into the oven tomorrow. I'll probably cook it at about I don't know, about 11ish. So I will see you tomorrow, where I will be dressed a bit better than this. And what you now do is just keep the kitchen towel, tea towel, cover it back up and just put it straight into the fridge, and just leave it in there overnight. So that's it. That's the end of doing it. Now you've got to do is, you do need a lame, which is basically like a razor blade. So if you've just got a little razor blade, you can use a little razor blade. You can use a sharp knife, but it's best to sort of have a razor blade type blade. So I have got this, which I bought again on Amazon, I think, at the beginning of lockdown. So I bought that, and it comes with extra blades, which I haven't used yet, but that's to basically cut the bread, which I'll show you tomorrow. So night night, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye. Morning, everybody. Well, it's 11:20. I'm gonna get the dough out of the fridge and put it in the oven now to cook. But just wanted to speak to you about starter, because the starter is obviously the yeast that you need for the sourdough, and if you haven't got the starter to begin with, that's a process in itself. So you can buy dried starters online, or you can make your own starter, which just takes between 7 and 14 days. I think that's when you do have to measure out like 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water, let that sit for the day, and then it's sort of like every day you feed it, and every other day you discard some and feed it again. It's basically, you know, just to strengthen it up and start getting it to bubble. I was lucky enough to have a friend drop some starter off for me. I have dried some starter, because you can dry it so that you can put it in the freezer, and it just stays there for however long you want it. So I have got some dried starter that I can send to you if you want it. It's not a problem. I don't know how you activate it, but that's obviously something you could Google. I believe it's just mixing it with, I don't even know what you'd mix it with, but yeah, you can use it. But that's what you'll need first. It is the starter. Once you've got the starter, you just obviously use it each week, feed it each week. So for me, once I've used the starter, I literally have a scraping left, like you saw yesterday. I've got enough in there for another loaf, so I just put it straight back in the fridge. But usually I only keep enough for sort of 1 or 2 loaves. I don't keep loads of starter. You don't need loads of starter, because obviously you've got to use it, and if you don't use it all, you've got to feed it. The more you've got in there, the more you've got to feed it more sort of flour and water to get a good starter going. So I literally use it until I've got sort of a scraping around the jar. It's probably not even a tablespoon's worth. It's just sort of like, you know, a little bit of scraping at the bottom. That's all I have left. And then all I do is put some flour, like 4 heaped teaspoons of, or 4 heaped dessert spoons of flour. And then I just pour some water, my boiled water that's cold, pour that in. And I use my palette knife to mix it until it's like a really thick paste. I don't make it really runny. And you just make sure that you get all the scrapings into that new flour and water. Because if you've only got a tiny amount of starter in there, and you're putting all this new flour and this fresh water, that's just going to create a much fresher and stronger starter, rather than if you've got quite a lot of starter already and you're putting in a bit of flour and some water. It's not enough for it to really become strong, because you've got a lot of starter that you need to feed. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to get my dough out now, and I'm going to show you what I do. You'll need the lame. So I'll get the dough out and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's just in here. This is where I need to bring my camera down now. You need to see, you see that. So it's been in the fridge obviously since 9:30 at night. that's now what it looks like. So it's kind of got a bit of a hard crust. And then all you do is, you can use, what do people use? Like cast iron, as long as it's got a lid. It needs to have a lid, and obviously it needs to be able to be big enough for you to put your dough in. But yeah, I mean, you can get these online anywhere, any pot that you've got. So this is baking parchment paper. You can see that I've used it a fair few times. I leave it in there. This will probably need replacing the next time round, but I just leave it in there. So just make sure it's a decent parchment paper. And all you do, let me just get out the old bit of rice flour that's in there. All I do is get my dough and put this over the top. So it's like that. Hold that, turn it out, and I heard it already clonk. So it's already gone to the bottom of this, which is nice, it didn't stick. And then, as you can see, let me turn this round again. Oh, I don't think I can. Okay. So as you can see, it's got a nice pattern on it. It's quite flat as well. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to score it, and this is where you get those ears and stuff. So if I keep the camera there, just literally score up to the middle, turn round. So you do quarters like that. You can do any pattern that you want really, and then I just do little ones in the sides, little halves. I don't know if you can see that. What I do try and do with these is just try and get that so that it's all cut really, because then that's what will expand and blow up. And that's it. And then you put your lid on. I do it in a cold bake. So I put it in the oven like that, and you want to turn it on at, let me turn that round, I don't know whether you can see, but I do it so I've got like an eco circulation hot air thing, so I use that, and I just go to 225, and then I do my timer so that the oven will turn off in 55 minutes, and that's it, done. And once that comes out, it should look like all the others. I had some, so the sourdough loaf that I made yesterday, I had some this morning because we'd already had some other sourdough, so we didn't actually need to slice it yesterday. But I usually get these as well. If I'm in the supermarket, I usually go to the bakery bit and just get some of these bags, because they're really good to either give to friends or keep it in there yourself. So that was my loaf yesterday that I did, but you can see that is the inside. Oh, and it was so delicious. It was yummy. So that's what mine usually look like. I don't like them massively holy because everything seeps through them, but to have a few holes, it's just the nice kind of crust. It's not too crunchy. It's just got a really lovely flavour. So I just wanted to show you what it looked like inside. But I'll come back to you after the 55 minutes and we'll take the lid off together and show you what it looks like, and hopefully it will look exactly the same as all my other loaves. So I will speak to you in a bit. Okay, 55 minutes is gone. I'm back. I'm going to get it out of the oven. Ooh, it will be hot, so be careful. Oh, there's nothing like the fresh smell of sourdough. Oh, amazing. Right, I'm going to have to turn the video round when I take off this lid. So this is the best part. This is the part where you get to see what your creation's done, whether it's a complete flop or whether you've got a really lovely ear, which is what they call the bit that comes up. So I'm going to turn it so you can have a look as well, and then I'm going to take the lid off, and nice. Oh, that lid's hot. Yeah, there we go. So that is a freshly baked sourdough loaf. So that's all I do, because I now know I've got a new oven anyway, because I've got a new kitchen. But let me just put the light on. That's it. So I know that I can put my oven from cold, turn it on, time it for 55 minutes, and then cook it. It's really energy efficient as well, because you're not having to preheat the oven. So I'll get it out of the tin. There you go. And put it on there. That's it. One nicely turned out sourdough loaf. So yeah, I hope that's helped. And any questions, then give me a shout. I'll be more than happy to help. But I hope that sort of made it a bit easier for you to understand. You know, it's really not difficult at all. It's just a long process. But if you've got the time, you know, as I said, you can go out shopping for 2 hours and come back and do stuff. You don't have to be tied to the house. As long as you know your timings, you can go off and do errands and meet somebody for a coffee and come back. So it's something that you can leave once you start sort of knowing your temperature in your kitchen, you know, the water that you're using, the flour that you're using. So mine's it's Shipton mill, and it's the Canadian strong white flour. So yeah, it's not expensive. I think each loaf is about 50p. I buy 16 kilos of the flour, which comes in a big box, but it makes it a lot cheaper to do it. So yeah, it's just the time and the love that you put into it. But once you've got the hang of it, believe me, you won't be buying any shop bought bread, because there's nothing like the bread that you make, and you know what's gone into it, and it's healthy, it's better for your gut, it's not so bloating on your belly. So yeah, and whatever you do make, then send me some pictures, or yeah, just send me some stuff of what you've made, and let me see. What I do say is, with this, what I read from another source that I'd sort of follow, she sort of said the best thing to do is to leave it 24 hours. Once you've taken it out of the oven, leave it 24 hours before you actually slice it, because the flavour becomes stronger inside if you don't cut it. Don't ever cut it when it's just come out of the oven, as tempting as it is, and you just want warm, fresh bread. That isn't advisable, because if you cut it when it's really hot, the steam on that sourdough will turn it gummy, so the inside will become very gummy. So I have started to now use it if I bake it. Well, usually I do sort of leave it 24 hours, because that loaf I only cut this morning and I baked it yesterday. Once you've got sort of enough sort of loaves around and you've got some in the freezer, then you can sort of leave them. But I mean, you can leave it to go cold. If I left that, you could have it this evening. But I would suggest trying to leave it as long as possible. Resist temptation. But yeah, all the nice lines on it as well. So I'm pleased with that. And hopefully my friend will be pleased with it as well, as I drop that off to her later. But enjoy it. It's something really therapeutic. I just really enjoy it, considering all you've got is 4 ingredients. You've got the salt, the flour, the water, and your starter. You can make something like that. So I hope that's made it simpler for you to understand. And honestly, any questions, I'm still a newbie. I need to now start using different flavours and different breads. I want to try putting some things into it, but I just wanted to master the basics first. I think once you master the basics and you understand how your dough feels, then you can try doing other things. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this, and give me any feedback and let me know what you think. All right, good luck, enjoy, bye.